Well, congratulations. You've gone through part one of this series, the foundations and some of the theories that are essential for really knowing how to go about hypnotizing somebody. Here in part two, in these videos, what I'm actually going to do is not only conceptualize the practice of a hypnosis session, but I'm also going to demonstrate hypnotic methods going through each step of the process, not only with you as a participant, but also with a volunteer who I'm going to be working with in this course. Now, it's really important to recognize that in this course, I'm not actually using real clients. At the end of this course, we're going to talk a little bit about ethics in hypnosis. And so I'm not using real clients, but I am using real processes, not only with you, but I'm also using those processes with those who are here in my office, whether it was Alex in the previous videos or guests that I have here in successive videos. By the time we're done with section number two, you will have specific skills that you can practice. And practice is something that I think is very important. You should find a partner that you can practice the content of these videos with. You can find a family or friend, you can find a colleague or a coworker. Heck, if you just go out and tell people that you're learning hypnosis, the number one response you're going to get is, "Oh, really? That's so cool. Hypnotize me." Now, something I want to point out when you're practicing that's very important. The goal of practice is for you to become familiar with the process and familiar with the techniques, familiar with the pattern, the ideas, and the order of suggestion. That's really far more important than what the results are. Every now and then I get an email or I get a phone call and somebody says, "Well, I tried that induction with my husband or with my wife and they didn't go into hypnosis." Well, there's a couple elements here. Remember the old saying that a prophet is never welcome in their own hometown? Some of you might find that you have a spouse or a child or a friend or a colleague or a coworker who is easy to work with, who wants to respond and receive the gift that you're giving them really by your practice. But sometimes you'll find that people won't accept your authority, and because they know that you're learning hypnosis, have that skeptical part of their mind that says this isn't going to work. And so what's important again is that you go through the process and actually practice it, not what the response is from them. And of course, if you're doing hypnosis correctly, you're actually working with natural phenomena and you're teaching people a skill that's valuable to them. And so you'll find that even those who have been a bit resistant at first, particularly family members, are extremely easy to work with. Now, many of you who are taking this course are therapists. And if you're a therapist, you have a wonderful opportunity to practice these techniques with real clients. Some of the clients who you're working with, you have established rapport with already. And you are working with them on a daily basis. A great opportunity you have to practice is to say to that client, recently in my continuing education courses, I've been learning clinical hypnosis. And in today's session, I'd love to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and actually guide you through a process that can teach you some new skills and be really useful to you. I guarantee that your clients are going to say, "Oh, please go ahead, demonstrate with me, show me what you're learning," because it sounds not only fascinating, but something that's particularly valuable to them. Now, as we move into the idea of conceptualizing the structure of a hypnosis session, I'm going to go through each of these components that I mentioned in the previous videos, and I'm going to demonstrate with somebody how to go about doing an induction, how to do a pre-talk, how to do a deepening technique, how to create and deliver suggestive therapy and post-hypnotic suggestions. And so you'll actually see me demonstrating that with a person in this video series. But I want to start this section by talking about really the idea of evidence-based treatment protocols. Hypnosis has been around as long as people have been around. Of course, it became a popular technique in the 1700s with the ideas of Anton Mesmer, and in the 1800s as the Scottish physician James Braid began to write about using hypnosis as a tool for anesthesia. And everywhere from stage hypnosis to Hollywood movies and clinical hypnotists like Milton Erickson popularizing medical applications in the 1950s and 60s, there has been an evolution in how we approach hypnosis. And many people associate hypnosis with regression work. And so I want to spend a moment before we go any further talking about the approaches to hypnosis that I tend to prefer. The idea of regression really is an idea from Sigmund Freud. It was Sigmund Freud's idea that we have unconscious processes going on that are blocking us from achieving our full level of potential. And this is often a result of our prior experiences in life. And so, really, the idea of Sigmund Freud was to regress a person, to bring a person back to where they were in the past, and to address that therapeutically so that they could function to their maximum potential here in the present. Now, that's a very short simplification of Freud's work, but the idea for regression really was Sigmund Freud's idea. Let's go back to the past and address the past so that we can function better today. In the world of contextual psychology, we now know that that's not necessarily the most effective approach to helping people make change. Now, contextual psychology, I actually wrote a book on contextual psychology titled Integrating Mindfulness-Based Approaches into Effective Therapy. The ideas of contextual psychology are sometimes called third-wave behavioralism, or approaches that really focus on the present rather than the past. There's an old saying from the great master Uguay, and that saying is, yesterday is history, tomorrow's a mystery. All we have is the present, and that's why it's a gift. And the modern approach to psychotherapy says that we can't change the past. We don't know what the future is. All we literally can deal with is the present. And the research shows that contextual approaches, focusing on the now, are generally more effective in psychotherapy than other approaches. Well, we can extend this to hypnosis as well, since hypnosis is a helping modality. And there are lots of anecdotal stories that suggest that regression to the cause of a person's problem can result in a person feeling that their problem has been resolved and that they're able to go on in the future. However, we need to look at the research. And the research shows us that that's actually not the most effective approach to helping people make change. Now, the reason why this is important is real simple. If I have a client come in my office and I've never met this person before, I've probably never even talked to this person before because my office manager booked the appointment, but they want me to help them solve a problem. My first approach, my starting point with that person, should not be the preferred method that I learned in graduate school a long time ago, or the preferred method that most hypnotherapy programs continue to teach today. My preferred approach should actually be what the research says is going to be most effective. And those are going to be approaches that integrate cognitive behavioral therapy, approaches that integrate mindfulness-based stress reduction, approaches like solution-focused brief therapy, and teaching approaches like those that favor autogenic training or progressive muscle relaxation. Now, you may or may not be familiar with these different modalities that I've just mentioned, but they all have one thing in common, and that is that the methods utilized by those therapeutic approaches are hypnotic in nature. Now, every now and then, somebody who's taking the course who's not from a mental health background says to me, but aren't you actually teaching me to do therapy as an unlicensed person? Well, the answer to that is no. In fact, when we look at the approaches of contextual psychology, we see that they really transcend the last 100 years of psychology and really have their roots in people using meditation as a strategy for solving problems that go back 5,000 years or more in time. In fact, I've always joked around when people say, aren't you practicing psychology without a license if you're not a mental health professional? Well, then psychologists are often practicing Buddhism without ordination. But I want to mention something that I think is real important about the relationship between Buddhism and mindfulness. In the current era, there is an approach that really relies on mindfulness as a tool in psychotherapy or in counseling. And that's great. And many of these teachers do come from a Buddhist tradition. But I think it's important to recognize that mindfulness is not in and of itself Buddhist or non-Buddhist. As a matter of fact, all world religions share something in common in that they all seem to value the idea of mindfulness. Certainly this is explicit in a Buddhist tradition, and People from that tradition have been teaching the idea of mindfulness, recognizing that even non-Buddhists benefit from that. But at the same time, the idea of the Kabbalah, Hebrew meditation, the idea of Jesus in Matthew 6, when he talked about the lilies of the field, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, they don't worry about themselves. Jesus goes on to say, if God cares so much for the lilies of the field, how much more then does he care about you? And so essentially, don't worry. In other words, stay here in the moment. And so all world religions express in one way or another the idea of mindfulness, the idea that the present moment has something valuable for us, and that in the present moment I can live to my fullest level of potential. This, from a therapeutic perspective, is much easier than trying to go back and solve what really can't be undone. We can't change the past, no matter how much psychodrama we engage in. And of course, we have absolutely no idea what the future holds. And so the easiest approach in hypnotherapy or counseling or really personal development is an approach that recognizes the value and the power of now. As we approach structuring a hypnosis session, I'm going to be drawing from the wide variety of different modalities in contextual psychology to share with you a valuable strategy for hypnotic induction. Strategies for deepening trance experience, for accessing resource states that we call hypnosis, and for empowering clients to act on suggestions in the present rather than predicting what they'll do when they leave a hypnosis session in the future. Now, I'm really excited about you entering this second section of this course, because it is, of course, in this section that you're going to take your knowledge to a level where you're actually able to work with individuals and begin the hypnotic process, all founded on an approach based on what the research shows is most effective at helping people experience change.